jobs to solve our jobs emergency. We do have an economic emergency because the jobs that came back are part-time, low-wage, insecure, and temporary jobs. We need good jobs in this country, and we need a productive economy that's actually producing things that we need, not just sending those jobs overseas. This is our answer to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is how we boost the economy through a Green New Deal. It's not rocket science. This is not something that's hypothetical that we're just inventing. This was actually done during the Great Depression. We actually created millions of jobs within months. We're calling for 20 million jobs over the first term of 4 years. And those jobs are not just plain old jobs. They are jobs to solve our other emergency, the emergency of the climate crisis that we must start to solve now. You have to be like, wearing your blinders if you didn't understand what's been happening over the last couple weeks with these wildfires all up and down the West Coast, from California to Washington, and disaster zones being declared, and over 100,000 people having to flee for their lives from these fire zones. And then down in southern Louisiana, you have a whole new set of floods, again displacing close to 100,000 people who have filed for assistance for their homes that have been damaged or destroyed. And then the very next day, what does Washington, the White House do? They open up 25 million acres of the Gulf for new oil exploration. We need to shut that down. No new oil exploration is what we need. As part of that Green New Deal, we call for 100% wind, water, and sun by 2030. This is an emergency mobilization because what we're seeing, not only, every month now is setting a new world record for the month of that name. And what we're hearing from the scientists now is that we can expect 9 feet of sea level rise as soon as 2050. This is not something we can survive. This is goodbye Manhattan, it's goodbye to the state of Florida, goodbye to the country of Bangladesh, and goodbye to all coastal population centers all around the world. This is not something we want to have to deal with. We've got to stop this before it becomes inevitable. That means today we start to fight this. This means that on the day we turn the White House into a greenhouse, that means the only responsible thing to do is to declare an immediate moratorium on all new fossil fuel infrastructure. No new fracking, no new offshore oil, no new excavation on public lands. This means no opening up the Arctic, no new frack towers. Instead, no pipelines, no fracking pipelines, no oil pipelines, no new oil or fossil fuel pipelines whatsoever. Building that infrastructure commits us to another 30, even 40 years of deadly fossil fuel energy. We may not be around in 40 years to use that fossil fuel energy if we continue on the course. And that's what Jim Hansen told us about 2 years ago with his cutting-edge study. That's what this latest study that will be revealed by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that they briefly described at this recent insurance industry conference. But they'll be putting out the written reports about this, that we do not have a future. The only future we have is a green, sustainable, healthy, and just future. That is the future we are looking for. And that Green New Deal revives our economy. It turns the tide on climate change in an emergency way, with an emergency wartime scale mobilization against our true greatest common world threat, and that is climate change. The other thing that the Green New Deal does, aside from fixing our economy, fixing the climate, it makes the friggin' wars for oil obsolete. Because when you have 100% clean renewable energy, and that means no nuclear energy as well, because it's dangerous and there's no place to put it. We can't afford it. It can only survive if it gets huge public subsidies. So, if it weren't being supported by its apologists in our government, it could not survive. Left to a free market, it would actually die its own quick natural death, which is what it should do. We say goodbye and good riddance to nuclear energy. We don't need it. We have all the clean renewables that we need right now. But, the whole excuse for the military, we are the only nation, not only right now, but throughout history, that has had armed forces all over the world. Something like, 700 bases? Nobody knows exactly, in over 100 countries around the world. We are safeguarding our access to fuel supplies and to their routes of transportation. So, if you add up all the other foreign bases that other countries have, I'm told it comes to like 30, okay? They've got 30 and we have maybe near 1,000. What's wrong with this picture? This is just not sustainable. This is an empire on its way to collapse. If we try to maintain this kind of global military force, it's just not working. It's failing madly, and it really brings out all the resistance to an occupying force, which is what many of these military centers become. So the Green New Deal is a very quick, expedited path to a world that has a healthy economy. Not only should we demilitarize, we need to bring not only our allies, but also our adversaries into this new world order, where we put our resources into fighting our true common enemy of climate change, not fighting each other for the things that create climate change, that is fossil fuel. So this is kind of a win-win-win, and the last thing I didn't mention, this pays for itself not only in reduced military expenditures, but it turns out we get so much healthier when we eliminate fossil fuels that our health savings alone is enough to pay the cost of the green energy transition. So let's not talk about this. When they say we can't afford it, it's actually the opposite. We can't afford not to do it. And it's not only cleaning up our energy supply, it's also transforming our food supply to a healthy, sustainable, food system instead of this industrial, toxic, mechanized, nutritionally depleted food system that's being subsidized, inflicted on us, and making us sick. So we're calling for jobs also in the healthy food sector, in creating family farms and community farms and farming cooperatives again, bringing back a healthy farming economy. jobs that we especially will encourage in the Green New Deal, and that is jobs creating a healthy, renewably powered public transportation system. And it's a public transportation system that also includes recreational transportation. That means safe bike paths and safe sidewalks so we can get to the transit hubs under our own muscle power, having fun while we get there. And I know there are a lot of people in Colorado that have a lot of fun with recreational transportation. So when you build this in to our economy, we actually get really, really healthy. And this isn't just like a study that tells us about this. This actually happened in the country of Cuba when their oil pipeline went down in the 1990s when the Soviet Union collapsed. Suddenly they lost their fossil fuels. They did not have, cars polluting their roadways. They did not have oil to drive their tractors for their mechanized agriculture. They had to get out the farmers, they had to bring out the draft animals and the bicycles, and suddenly the air is clean. Their economy's crashing because this was not a planned transition, this just happened. So what happened to their health? You'd think it would be crashing because their economy is in a shambles. But what actually happened is that their death rate from diabetes goes down 50%. Their death rate from heart attacks and strokes goes down about 30%. And their all-cause mortality goes down about 20% in spite of the economic hardship and the stress. How much are we spending in this country? $3 trillion a year on a sick care system, not a health care system, and we are only getting sicker. In Cuba, they spent $0, and they basically had a health miracle. So just by moving to the Green New Deal, we start improving the infrastructure for health, but of course, in addition, we call for an improved Medicare for all system so that we can help the people who actually get sick. And we support what Colorado is doing with Amendment 69 to begin us along that pathway. So again, an improved Medicare for all system will not cost us more money. It actually just redirects the money that's being wasted right now on paper pushing and bureaucracy and exorbitant CEO salaries, and instead puts that money, healthcare dollars, into real healthcare. We have a right to healthcare as a human right, and we have it now. One last thing I want to mention that also needs to be done at the national level. And this is something else that will not be discussed unless we are in the debates, and we'll talk about how to make sure we're in the debates in a minute. But we have a generational crisis right now, an entire generation of young people who've been locked into predatory student loan debt. We found a way to bail out the bankers who crashed the economy with their waste, fraud, and abuse on Wall Street. If we could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, it's time to bail out their students, the young people locked into predatory student loan debt. And this is a tiny fraction. It's just a small fraction of the amount of money that was put into the Wall Street bailout, which was something like $16 trillion. So to bail out a generation of young people, it's about $1.3 trillion. It's much smaller. There are many ways that this can be done, but the important thing is that this is a priority. This is the stimulus package of our dreams to unleash an entire generation of young people. They're already trained. They already went to school. They got their degrees. They need to be liberated to found, to create the nonprofits, the worker cooperatives, the small entrepreneurs. They need to be unleashed to create the economy of the future. And for all of our benefit, this isn't just for them. This is for all of us. We need them to be liberated to lead the way forward. It is always the younger generation that pushes the envelope in the crises that we face, in dealing with the challenges in the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, the women's movement, the Black Lives Matter movement right now, the immigrant rights movement. It's all being led by young people who are on the front lines. The climate justice movement, the anti-fracking movement. All of these transformational movements rely on young people, but they are, they're leading the way, but they're also working 2 and 3 part-time jobs just trying to keep a roof over their heads. Let's